All right, buddy, here we go. It is
A week.
the week for the game. It's which is kind of now that we're doing the podcast. I mean, this is I typically don't talk to you during this week. I really don't. I don't
Yeah,
know. You
I
agitate me
don't.
in general, and now I have to see your face with that ugly hat on. It's
Yeah.
making me, frustrated and sick. But for those that have tuned in and that will be listening to this podcast titled "The Game" in Ohio State, Michigan, we're not going to sit down here and break away player analysis and who we think's got better matchups and all that type of shit. Because number one, you can go see that till you're sick in the face. None of them know what the fuck they're talking about anyway. So I thought it'd be a much better idea just to kind of talk about, our history and not just our history, but the history,
Yeah.
and kind of personally what it means and everything. And where I kind of wanted to start for me is that, in this day and age, I think especially when you get older, certain things they'll get taken away from you to a degree. What I mean by that is maybe it's a sense of when you were younger that you were impressionable or things seemed a certain way. When you get older, you're like, oh fuck, man, this isn't that great as I thought, type of thing. Or just the way our society is, that things change. It's in the Ohio State alma mater, time and change. As things evolve, things change. And you wish those rich traditions were still there and everything. And this is a thing that at the age of 42, that I was in the stadium last Saturday when we put an absolute ass whipping on Michigan State, and I stayed all the way till the end. Typically wouldn't happen. I was actually very fortunate to be in a loge though, and it was very warm and we had cocktails and everything. So why not?
Oh yeah, you're in the
Why
loge.
not?
Blah
Why
blah
not?
blah.
Why not stick around? But a tradition that started it all off about 4 or 5 minutes to go. Obviously the game had been decided, but people kind of sense it and know it. The crowd erupts into the unison singing of "We Don't Give a Damn" for the whole state of Michigan. And the hair stood up on my neck. It's doing it right now as I tell you that. And it was like, oh baby, it's on. And these people know it, they feel it. And it's just go time. It's so real as when you're very vested as a fan and part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Michigan Ohio State game. It really needs no other description other than that. I mean, it's so strange because it's more than just the game. It's a celebration, I think, of cultures, although technically the fan bases would say there's two different cultures. It's really the same culture.
Yeah.
It's Midwestern culture. This is what you do on the fourth Saturday of November. As you watch this game, you get together with family. It's like Thanksgiving part two. And you think when you're a young kid, you think of like your first memories of anything, your first birthday party, your first Christmas, your first this, your first that.
Yeah.
I gotta say, being aware that I was a Michigan fan, A, and hated Ohio State, B, was one of the earliest things I remember about being a human being. I'm serious. And I remember my first game, like getting into it. It was with Jim Harbaugh at quarterback, ironically. And he stuck it to Ohio State. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is really cool. And it just has gone on from there. Everyone that I ever interact with knows that Kirtley's watching Michigan Ohio State. Don't schedule a game at this time. Don't bother him. Don't ask him to do anything. Get out of his way. And that's the way it's going to be this coming Saturday.
Yeah. You can't. Here's my favorite part, and I hope I can articulate this the right way. Sometimes I have a problem doing that because my vocabulary is not too great or whatever else. But I want to try to tell the story or whatever. It's incredible to me. I mean, we're in a position here where Ohio State has won a lot of games in the past 20 years, 17 or 18 or whatever it is, and you would think that takes a taste off it. A whole side note for me, I kind of think it doesn't when you're in it. I'm probably in the rarity where I look back and I wish we would have lost a couple to Harbaugh already, in a sense, because I always think to myself, man, if you always win, it will take away from it, because you cannot manufacture that feeling. You cannot manufacture tears down my face after a victory. That doesn't have anything to do with the Ohio State winning and a bunch of kids who I don't know or care about really going and beating another team. Those tears come from thinking about my grandfather, thinking about my father, thinking about, I went to this school, my wife went to this school, my sister went to this school. it's so much more. I don't give a shit really about the game. It's that I get to rejoice with my brother and my dad and my uncle and my,
Yeah.
those type of things and you can't manufacture that. So my fear is that, okay, if we keep winning, potentially that could be taken away from me. Just what I opened the show with, of that this is something that is still there and is still it's standing the test of time, if you will. So it amazes me that this week has turned. And I've already talked to a couple of buddies. I talked to a buddy last night. I was cleaning up my bar and getting everything ready for the holiday and getting everything going. We talked for like 35 straight minutes, dude. We were talking about the early 90s. It just like, you just start, it's so special. That doesn't happen any other time of the year. You can't manufacture the feeling. And if you're somewhere else in the country and pretend like you think you have the same thing going, you don't. It's too rich in tradition. It's too blue blood. It means too much to both states and people. And I just love the fact that it's still, no matter how much you win or how much one side goes to the other, everything, it's so cliche. Everything's thrown out. It doesn't fucking matter. This is it.
Yeah, I think two things. First of all, the two fan bases will act like they want to destroy each other. They actually need each other. It's like a marriage.
Absolutely.
Of people that hate each other, but they can't get a divorce, that type of thing. And the Big Ten needs them for a lot of different reasons. You can break this rivalry down into different eras. By the way, it's great stuff about your family. My experience has been completely different. It's more about the Michigan fan living in Ohio State land and being sort of the infidel and the outsider and just constantly being barraged with Ohio State propaganda my whole life. Being a man of Michigan because I was born there.
Yeah,
but having to live not only in Youngstown, Ohio, but also Columbus during the zenith of the rivalry, if you will, I think. But if you break it down in our lifetimes, certainly in the 90s, it was about Michigan just ruining John Cooper's seasons year after year, national championship seasons, and ultimately his career at Ohio State.
Oh yeah.
His inability to beat Michigan. And then the worm turned hard with Tress. And then Michigan has gone through this like decades long search of what they're going to be with big time college football. They were not only losing to Ohio State during the post Lloyd Carr era, they're losing everybody else too. I mean, it wasn't like they were
those couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think they've got their guy, but Ohio State right now is just, they're on a different level, but Michigan's got a good team. And the last few years have been, they've started to make the rivalry a little bit more special. But you're right. Every year is its own special game. It does not matter if, Ohio State's won 17 in a row. I don't know what the number is.
Yeah.
Or Michigan's won. If you lose the game, it stings and it stings hard.
Yeah.
If you win the game, there's nothing better.
There's nothing better.
And there's been some great ones.
There has, man. What's crazy to me is, like I said, man, it's not about those. It's not about when you look back in it, who gives a shit about the wins and losses? But man, that day, the rivalry has changed over the years, being before Thanksgiving and after Thanksgiving. There was a stint in there. I checked the tapes on that, but there was a time where it was not Thanksgiving weekend.
It was the week before.
It was the week before. I love it being the week of Thanksgiving. I mean, there in the whole state of Michigan and the whole state of Ohio, that's just what you sit around and talk about.
Yeah.
And this year's game and those type of things. But then you also, at least in my experience and my family, I'm sure it's the same in many others. We sit around and we talk about all of the great stories that you can't write as a family. I'll go through one of our favorites, the 1 verse 2 in 06. I got thrown out of that game twice.
I remember that now.
2 times I got thrown out of that game for the same, and I didn't do anything to deserve to get thrown out. But the funniest part about it is, and nobody knows the characters that I'm talking about, but just take it from an Ohio family person there with your brother and your uncle and your dad. And we couldn't get 4 together, which we typically have always done. We had 2 and 2, and we were supposed to meet at halftime. And obviously, when my uncle went to meet, I wasn't there. Or no, neither of us went because we were dealing with the situation. By the way, all I did was run into a buddy at the concession stand who I didn't know who was going to be there, both getting a hot dog and a pop type of thing. Hey, yeah, this is great. I mean, it was incredible first half. Ohio State was kicking ass. Michigan was doing well. I mean, It was great. He pulled a flask out of his pocket, and I took a sip with him, and a state trooper nailed me and threw me out of the stadium. I was in total control. One being a dick, he just had a hard on. By the way, now you can drink booze in stadiums, so thank you very much.
Unbelievable.
And then the second time I got thrown out, I was actually on the outside of Ohio Stadium with like a pack of vigilantes of like 15 people that we had not known each other, and everybody was just trying to get back in the stadium. Now, I doubt they were thrown out. There's probably people that never made it into the game. Long story short, we like found this gate, and I pulled this bar up, and these huge gates open, and we just rushed it. The buddy who I got thrown out with, who gave me the flask, I said, hey, no matter what, we're on our own now. No cell phones, no nothing like that. Stick together. We got to watch this thing together. Well, I go running in the stadium. I'm running up the ramp. I'm shedding off layers because I'm already thinking so like no one recognized me, because all these like ushers and police instantly, when we all came in and ran, they're like, hey, hey, hey. What do? I lose him in the dust. He goes a different direction. So 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, I go back to the scene of the crime, and I'm holding all my clothes under my arm. And these people came up and they're like, let me see your ticket. And I'm like, oh, and they're like, yeah, you're out of here. Now they physically grabbed me and threw me out. So I watched that game on a Jumbotron on Lane Avenue. Actually with Dan Reardon, one of your fraternity brothers, a great Buckeye, saved my ass. But, you know, we talk about kind of what happened that day. It never gets old. And that's what this all means. That's what all this is about. Now, had we lost that, you wouldn't talk about those type of stories and those times that you did together. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, getting thrown out of the game. I mean, I'm not sure that's part of the rivalry.
No. I'm just saying.
Go with it for now.
My point being, don't fucking turn on me. Here you go. You're starting to turn on me. The point is, classic story. Well, see, you don't know a lot of these stories because you haven't been to a lot of the games. You didn't. You grew up in Ohio. You went to some games in Columbus. I took you to your first game at the Big House.
That's right.
Which was a Michigan victory.
I'm 2-0, baby.
By the way, so here's again, we get to have that memory together. What happened? Do you remember what happened a couple plays into the game?
No,
we were what, row 3 of the stadium, or row 2?
Really good seats.
I believe that was Braxton Miller's true freshman year.
Luke Fickell was the coach.
Yes,
for Ohio State.
Right after Tressel's dismissal, coach. And you and I were there. I was being a classy fan, and there was nothing going on. Threw a bomb right in front of us to Devin Smith, and Buckeyes go up, and I went to jump, and my feet and my boots were caught under the thing in front of us, and I fell on all those Michigan fans in front of us. You don't remember that? Was like the 4th fucking play of the game.
That's great.
Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. We had a great day that day, though, and there was a lot of attentions before the game and everything, but being in Michigan since they won, it was kind of calm afterwards. But you know, those are the stories you have forever.
Right. And you know, you and I have experienced it together in a lot of different ways. My first game, Michigan Ohio State, was actually 2000 with your dad, your brother, and your uncle. They brought me along as a sacrificial.
I don't know how that could have happened.
Yeah, they brought me along as a sacrificial lamb. But Michigan won that game in Columbus, and it was a game-clinching pick 6 by Michigan, and I think it was intercepted at the 50-yard line, and we were out of the stadium before the runner got to the goal line. Your dad and your uncle were so pissed. We're out of here. That was Steve Bellisari was the quarterback for Ohio State then. Big win for the Wolves with the A train dominant.
Yeah.
And also in Columbus, I was at the varsity club when Drew Henson won. I believe that was 2 years later. Also, I wasn't at the game, but I was right outside of it. Another great dub for the Wolves. So
what, 2003?
I believe that would have been it might have been 03.
It had to be 03. It was the only lot. It was
Lord. Yeah, 04 it might have been maybe. Or no, 02, I think you're right.
So quick little side, it was 03. I know them all.
Okay, there you go.
03 in Ann Arbor. But I remember that one because I was at the game in 2000, although my dad and uncle were there. But this will be the first time this will only be the 3rd time not being with my father for the Ohio State Michigan game since like that we could go back to somewhere around like 1993, 94. 2003, which the one you just referenced was in Ann Arbor. Mm-hmm. And I stayed in Columbus for a big party. I was in college at the time. Didn't go see my dad. We lose. And then 2011, when I went to the game with you, another Ohio State loss.
Yeah.
This will only be the third time I haven't seen the game with my
Right.
dad because of some family stuff that's, I can't get up there and my, whatever, doesn't matter, but we can't see the game together. I told him already, I'm like, maybe we just set up like a Zoom call and just watch the whole game together. I don't know what to do because I already got a bad feeling that I won't be with him for the game. But that's the type of stuff that,
Yeah.
I mean, man, I've seen him. I've seen emotion from a family just my whole life that's not about a football game. That's my favorite part about it.
It's a celebration.
Yeah, he's thinking about his dad, who he lost very early in his life, and he's the one that made him a Buckeye. He went to medical school at Ohio State. He was a family practice doctor and died of cancer early. You don't think that, he tells me these stories and they're legendary. Sitting, I forget what game he was sitting there. His dad was up in C deck and there was a seat next to him empty. And there's, sure enough, right before kickoff comes these two elderly couple walking down. The lady's got a broken arm. She fell and broke her arm the morning of the game, went to the emergency room, got a cast, made it to the Ohio State Michigan game just before kickoff. You just have those family type of stories that when this week gets here, that are just constantly turning in my head. And I think about the rich history and what it means and the tradition and the band, the highs, the lows. And I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, it's interesting how you can tie it to life events like that. Because same for me, because I moved to Columbus, Ohio in 2001 for law school. It was the same year that Jim Tressel took over as head coach. It was his first year as the Ohio State coach. They beat Michigan at Michigan, and then the next year, of course, which was Ohio State had to beat Michigan in Columbus to get to the national championship game, and that was a hell of a day. I remember being at the varsity club tailgating at before the sun came up.
You couldn't move on Lane Avenue.
Could not move. That was
300,000.
It was nearly a stampede type situation.
It was. We had to throw my sister over a chain link fence because we got smashed in right outside of the
not good.
game.
Not good at all. Not good at all. But a legendary game that Ohio State pulled out, and that sprung them to a national title. And I think back to 1998, Charles Woodson winning the game in Ann Arbor to spring Michigan to a national championship. And then you mentioned the 06 game. I don't think Ohio State, they got the national championship, but did not.
That was the Florida. That was the Florida debacle.
Yeah. So
which now that could be a whole different podcast. Yeah. That day changed the football landscape forever. You never heard bullshit about SEC before that.
Yeah.
And anybody listening from SEC or anywhere else, fuck you. Ohio State and Michigan, when they played on that date, that's the pinnacle. There's a reason why Ohio State and Michigan have fared poorly in bowl games against these people over 50, 100 years. Their peak is the Ohio State Michigan game. So when Bo Schembechler takes a bunch of 18-year-old kids that beat Ohio State out to Southern Cal, they're not really worried about beating USC. I got news for everybody. They already did what they had to do.
Yeah.
We could go on and on, but Ohio State went there 10 days early. They're on vacation. Alex Boone's 40 pounds heavier than when he played the Michigan game. Troy Smith's whatever the hell happened to him.
Yeah.
Teddy Ginn breaks his ankle in the first thing. Reline that up, Urban Meyer, kiss my ass. Never a son of mine for Ohio State, but that Florida team, we beat them 8 out of 10 times. They caught us on a day. He put together a great coaching job. Tressel really failed in doing that, but I'm telling you that time at 1-2, there was nobody in the country who's better, and one peaked, and that was it. And then Michigan had no more interest. So Michigan goes and gets blasted. Ohio State gets blasted. All of a sudden, Big Ten's slow. Big Ten's weak. Shut up.
Yeah,
we've been doing it for 100 years.
Yeah.
And we peaked till late November. That's our goal. That's our mission. Florida, Alabama, anybody else, if you want to have a rivalry and come and play in Ann Arbor and Columbus on a late November 30-degree day with flurries flying, and when everything means it, you're not going to see the same product at times when we roll down to a bowl game having beat one another.
Yeah, 6 weeks later, and it doesn't mean Michigan, of course, when they weren't, because Ohio State would beat them to get the national title. Michigan national title game, Michigan would get a consolation prize, which was like the Capital One Bowl, always against an SEC team on New Year's at like 11 a.m. on New Year's Day. And it's like, this isn't even, who cares? I'm
glad a lot of that has changed when it comes to that.
That's a good point about the SEC, because I think Ohio State was a heavy favorite in that game.
They
It
were,
was an
and listen,
upset.
it's sports history. They got caught with we're the just best thing ever. They
Yeah.
reached their peak. They were on a crash course all year as the two best teams in the country. Florida backs into it, and Urban Meyer was a genius when it came to motivation. He was at Ohio State. He did you if you know the history of it, he had things printed up where they had planned Ohio State championship parties after the game for the players that he had made up. He created a football that they had already signed. Like it was all fake. Like he was motivating his team.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, he was a genius at it. And they came out. You had one team on vacation, and you had another team eating nails, Rocky Balboa training to kill these people. And that happens in sports. And then you lose the best player early, and no one's in shape and whatever. But Ohio State.
Move on from that, because Ohio State did end up with Urban Meyer beating Alabama for their last national title. So you're good. You haven't been living my side of this rivalry, which has been just, 40 years in the desert.
Okay, so real quick to talk about that, when you mentioned Tressel getting hired, I think the most nervousness I have about this game around it is that Harbaugh has finally embraced, and maybe their whole culture of what it's going to take. Certainly John Cooper didn't have that. John Cooper is famously there's two things that happened during the Cooper era that were just you knew you were never going to beat Michigan. One, he said it's just another game, and they would just lose because he was trying to not get his players nervous or whatever it was. So he didn't embrace that it was not another game. And obviously he went 2-13 and was never successful. And then the year they tied with Gordon Gee saying one of the greatest victories in Ohio State history, they fucking tied. So those two disasters happened. Fast forward, Jim Tressel gets there.
Yeah.
What's he do? January 17th, he gets announced as the coach of Ohio State. He goes to St. John Arena, or maybe it was at the Shot. I think it was at St. John Arena, gives a speech and delivers and you're going to be proud of our players in 310 days in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Crowd goes crazy. Hair on your neck stands up. He fucking gets it. And then he adapted. There's a Michigan countdown clock in the locker room. There's this drill. All these things. And he goes up there in 2001 with a 4-loss team that had no business winning in Ann Arbor and goes and punches them in the face early and wins. And now Harbaugh seemingly has adapted that. I heard nothing but that in the spring from him and his players.
Yeah. Now, for me to believe that Jim Harbaugh doesn't embrace it, I mean, he played in the game and won. So,
I understand that.
Now, if he needs to drill down a little bit more, I do think, for Michigan not to focus on Ohio State is sort of a misnomer. I just think Ohio State right now is, from a recruiting standpoint, is just toppled everybody, including Michigan. But yeah, I mean, for Harbaugh, I mean, he's the right nut job to turn this around for Michigan.
But he did shift this year. You do have to admit that he shifted his kind of.
Yes.
They changed Ohio drill, and they talked about in the spring and what we're going to do here and there and everything else. And I think that is critical. And it's got me on edge, I will say, because think about anything you do in your life. Think about if you just roll out 2 days from now to give you something new to do and you go do it, or you have something at work or a project and you just kind of mail it in, or you think about it literally every fucking day for a year and you drill it in. When that day gets there, you will perform differently. So I expect them to perform differently.
Anything Michigan has been doing, they should just do the opposite.
Yeah,
it hasn't worked. It's been 8 years or 10 years since they've won. Even that game was sort of tainted because Ohio State was a mess. But this game is at Ann Arbor. All the chips are on the table for both of these teams. I mean, for Michigan, it is a chance to get into the the college football playoff, assuming if they could beat Ohio State, then win the Big Ten title game. For Ohio State, they might have a little bit of wiggle room, but not much because they already have a loss. So this is as big as 06, 02.
Oh yeah.
08 or 18 was a huge one too.
It's a national championship berth for whichever team wins. Yeah, well, not national championship, playoff berth, I guess we should say.
And it's got all the butterflies, and I'm excited about the game. I think Michigan's playing well. You can't be playing any better though than Ohio State, but they might. They didn't. They played a perfect game last week against Michigan State. It's hard to do that twice in a row.
Yeah, and
Say that.
Ohio State's got a quarterback that's been sitting in a perfect pocket for the last 4 or 5 weeks. I don't think that's going to happen with,
No,
with
hopefully
97,
not.
number 97 and number 55 out there flying around. I love some of the stuff that's happened too. You can't. This is what's the beauty of Ohio State, Michigan, and why I just laugh when anybody else says anything else. First of all, you have to have the characters. You have to have the legends and the characters of the game to make anything as special as it is. Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler, Archie Griffin, Charles Woodson, Gerbach, Harbaugh's prediction of guaranteed victory, all these things that have happened over the years, the Desmond Howard Heisman post, all these things. Then you get to 1 verse 2 in 2006 that hasn't happened in the whole history of the programs, or I checked the tapes on that. Who knows how long before,
Yeah.
but 1 verse 2, Bo Schembechler dies the night before the game.
That's crazy.
I mean, you couldn't. That day was so crazy with emotion and mixed. And by the way, that Tressel, being the genius he is, he flips it as classy as can be. Talked about how he's a graduate of Ohio State, almost like flipped it as their own son. In Ohio Stadium, they did a moment of silence for Bo, and everybody respected it. There's a very, very, very small percentage of Ohio State and Michigan fans on either side that don't act with total class and respect this. That's another thing that separates it from every other rivalry. If you want to pay attention to the little small percentages that treat it like assholes and everything else,
Yeah.
have at it. But that's one of the great things. It's always a clean game. Yeah, there's some fights. I'm expecting and predicting right now there's some more pregame jitters. Every time we go up to Ann Arbor, they're going to throw some shit pregame.
You're in close quarters there. Everyone's on top of you.
Yeah, well, the locker rooms, when they come out, they're right at the tunnel. They're on the opposite sides. And the famous Marcus Hall double bird to the stands from, I don't even know what year that was, about 10 years ago or so. It's from Michigan. Planned, premeditated to start a fight at the kickoff, which is bullshit.
Well,
So
I mean, anything we got to do. No holds barred. And I'm fully in favor of Michigan baiting them again, at which Ohio State will take the bait because they are emotionally unstable generally, because they're inferior people.
Yeah.
So.
When we talk about all this stuff, I gotta show you this. This is it's Thursday.
Get out.
Now, this is the things that are cool about this rivalry, and when you grow up in a family and things that are passed down. On the bottom, it says 1 drink every 15 minutes until no pain is felt. Okay. This was my grandfather's, who was a family doctor, and he had it for, I don't know how many years. I've grown up with my dad having it. Brings it to only the Ohio State Michigan game when he's there, and only he fills it with scotch and only drinks it if Ohio State wins. So over the past 20 years or whatever, how many times I've been with my father at all these Buckeye games, when he pulls this out of his warm winter coats and pockets and begins to drink scotch out of it. My grandfather held this, and it was at the same games. And now my dad gifted it to me last year. I laughed with him because last year we didn't have an Ohio State Michigan game because of COVID.
That's right.
And I said, you give it, this thing hasn't been drank out of except an Ohio State victory after a Michigan game for the past 60 years. First year you give it to me, I was hammering in my bar and drank scotch out of it after we beat Clemson. But there was no Michigan game. I said, give me a pass. But I'll be filling this up Saturday and in hopes to drink it with my brother. And I don't know, man. It's a special day. I won't sleep Friday night. Is that immature? Is that, am I?
No, it's
too old to be doing that. I can't
for both of us.
I can't fake it. Like I said earlier, I cannot manufacture it.
Yeah, it's going to be a great day. It's a celebration of our cultures. Hopefully ends with a Michigan victory. Out here in Illinois, it's an 11 a.m. kickoff. So it's literally like,
I didn't think about that. Your first time on that, right?
I'll be drinking some Christmas ales and celebrating a big dub for the Wolves.
All right. I said earlier that nobody here wants to listen to us break down a game or any kind of positions or anything else, because you get that anywhere. And that's why I wanted to give a little bit of a touch on what it means to me and what it means to you and the history of it and yada, yada, yada. But we do have to make some predictions and kind of what you think and feel about it.
I think, Ohio State, it's hard to pick against them right now. But I do think that Harbaugh gets his signature victory. It's going to be a little chilly. I think it'll slow Ohio State down. They have not seen a pass rush like this. And, they did lose to Oregon. It was not pretty. That performance is still in there.
Oregon.
And I think against a rowdy 110,000 at the Big House, a little bit of jitters from the young fellas, the young Bucks, and the Wolves pull it out.
Yeah, so cold, nothing to do with it. Stupid comment, as always, but it's just what you do this week. I have my nerves about it. Especially because, like I said, a couple of the defensive players on that line for Michigan. But as long as Ohio State doesn't turn the ball over, I don't see how they slow down the passing attack.
No,
if they got to upset Stroud, they got to get him out of his comfort zone. For 6 weeks, he's been sitting in a half semicircle, just playing catch. They've got to disrupt that, or else they're fucked. I still think Ohio State will win the game. I think it's going to be a ball game, very deep into the day. I won't be shocked sitting here when we talk again if we're sitting here with Harbaugh getting his signature win and flipping this thing. When we talked about this, when Harbaugh got hired, Meyer was there. I'm jealous of my father and all those people that get to talk about the rich history and tell their children about the 10-year war and the Woody and Bo years. I thought we were going to get that out of Urban and Harbaugh. Well, one, Urban skedaddled and did his thing, which I'm very happy about that he's gone. No tears from my eyes for him leaving. Tressel and Lloyd Carr, I thought would go a little bit longer with a battle. Maybe this ignites a new thing with Day and Harbaugh, that they do their thing. I don't know. But I still like Ohio State to win the game. How can't you? They're just better. They've been dominant. It is what it is.
I like it. I am putting this on the bulletin board and sending it up north.
Well, check the tapes. It's on video.
We'll do an emergency podcast Saturday at 3:30 to recap.
No matter what happens, I will not be talking to you Saturday. I don't care I don't care what happens. The bombs could land there, and we won't be talking there. We'll wait till Monday, Tuesday. But yeah, I'll do an emergency one no matter what.
I know how suicidal you are during the game. Just don't hurt yourself. I'll be fine.
You want to sign up to talking, doing a little game recap at some point?
Absolutely.
Oh,
we'll see you there.
I have a couple famous bets when I was around 8 to 10 years with some of those 8 to 10 years old, when Cooper would lose big ones, that I'd make my brother go repay, such as mowing neighbors' lawns and stuff that were Michigan fans. So I don't always pay my debts when it comes to Ohio State, Michigan. It used to be a little bit of a issue for me.
Well, it's been a great recap of the game. I'm looking forward to a big one. And,
happy Thanksgiving to everybody. This is the greatest. It's the greatest game of the year. It's professional college. It is. You can't fake it. You can't manufacture it. When you wake up Saturday morning, if I sleep, what you feel when you get those emotions, the tears get in your eye when the fight song or the band, or you think about people and all these different things come over you. You can't fake it. I can't wait. I'm already starting to sweat and get red faced thinking about it, baby.
Me too. Let's go.
All right, man. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Jeffrey.
I hope you really fucking lose hard.
Hail to the victors.
No. See you, man. Go Bucks.